Okay, so first of all, what we have to do is in command line we are taking these values. Okay, we are taking these values and we are creating the query. But as I mentioned, this query has to be created in a separate program. So let me add an extra program here in between. Let us say that I have a separate program. Let us say, and this program, let me call it as our class name. Our table is user, so I'm going to call this particular class as user DAO. What is DAO here? DAO means data access object. What is data access object? As the name suggests, data access means accessing data. Where do we access data from? We access data from database. Okay, and data access object means an object or an object that accesses data from database. Okay, an object that accesses data from database. Okay, and what is why are we calling it as data access object? That means during runtime, during execution, we are going to create this object, and that object is going to do the job of going to the database, talking to the database, getting the data from the database for the table, and so on. So this is one of the design aspects, in the sense it is a design pattern. It is something that industry people use to write a separate code or separate class which deals with all the JDBC related interactions. Okay, so this is a good practice. It is just a good practice to write separate code. Okay, it is a good practice to write separate class or separate dedicated class dealing with JDBC code. Okay, it is a good practice to write separate dedicated class dealing with JDBC code, which is called data access object. Okay, so let us call our class name as user DAO. Okay, user DAO, that is the class name I am choosing for this particular class. And what this class should do? This class should access the data from the database. Okay, that means this user DAO class should contain what? It should contain separate methods for each CRUD operation. Okay, separate methods for each CRUD operation. Let us say this is one method, this is another method, and this is another method, and this is another method. The methods need not be of the same size. Okay, that is here, that depends on what kind of code we are writing. Okay, let us imagine that user DAO is a class. In this, one method is there for insert user, one method is there for get one user record. Okay, let us say there is one more method for get all user records. Okay, and that, let us say there is one method to update user record. Okay, and then let us say there is one method for delete user record. Okay, let us say there is one for delete user record. Okay, like this. This class will contain different methods for different CRUD operations, because this class is a dedicated class dealing with JDBC code. Each method will have JDBC code which will perform these respective operations. So it is good practice to provide separate methods for separate CRUD operations, separate methods for performing, separate methods for separate CRUD operations with respective JDBC code. Okay, and this is good practice once again. This is once again a good practice. Okay, this is once again a good practice to provide separate methods for separate CRUD operations with respective JDBC code. Okay, and that is what we are going to do next. So what should happen? This is our insert user method. What it should do? It should receive these three data. Okay, so let me now once again do what? I have to take this data and send it to this insert user method, then take this email data and send it to insert user method, and then take this password data and send it to insert user method. Okay, so insert user method of user DAO of class should receive these three data which is entered by user at runtime, and then based on those three values, just like here we are creating a dynamic query, in the same way here in the insert user method it should create the dynamic query and then run the dynamic query in the database and complete the job of this operation called insert. Okay, so let us try creating that. Here I have to create a separate class called DAO. Okay, for that, under user management I want to create a package called DAO. Under user management dot DAO. Okay, and in this DAO package I want to create a class called user DAO. Okay, why are we choosing user DAO as the name? If that is your doubt, let me tell you, this is also just a naming convention. Okay, it is just a naming convention. What format we are using to choose the class name? Format to choose DAO class name is we are just following one format. What is it? Table name. Okay, whatever is the table name, in this case our table name is user. Okay, with first letter as a uppercase letter. Okay, table name with first letter as the uppercase letter. And if you are having multiple words in your table name, then you just have to use camel case. You have to capitalize the every new word's first letter. Okay, and then after that we are ending that name with a DAO. Okay, this is the format that we are using, and here I am writing user is the table name with first letter U capitalized and then DAO ending with a DAO, so that I am following this particular format. Okay, so that's it. So if in future we are creating a separate DAO for another table, let us say for student, then it will be student DAO with S capital. That's it. Very simple. Okay, so user DAO, and in this user DAO class, I have to provide what? I have to provide, what is this user DAO class? It is a separate dedicated class for JDBC interaction. Okay, and in this class, what we are going to provide? Separate methods for each CRUD operation. Okay, by CRUD I just mean what? Create, read, update, delete, or insert, select, update, and delete. Okay, see, for each of those operations we are going to provide separate methods. Okay, now here what we were dealing with this behavior, insert record behavior. Okay, we are dealing with this query called insert query. Okay, and so we will write a method called insert user. We will write a public type method, and uh, now that part is a slightly different thing. How to choose the method name? Try to keep it as simple as possible. What we are doing here, we are performing an insert operation on which table? User table. So method name, we can choose it as insert user. Okay, where we just have to follow camel case, and method names always start from lowercase, and every first letter of the next word has to be capitalized. Okay, so insert user is the method name I'm choosing. This method, okay, this method, as per our discussion, should receive values. What are the values it is receiving? Name, email, and password. These values it should receive. And when a method is receiving any values, they have to be provided as parameters. So let us provide parameters. What type of parameters I have to provide? I have to provide the type of values I am receiving. What type of values I am receiving? These are string values. How do we know? In our user test, when we were reading the values, we were reading string values. Okay, name, email, and password are string values. Sorry, string values. And so what we are going to do here, in the insert user method, I am providing string name, string email, string password. Okay, these are the parameters. Now what this method should return? This method for now need not return anything. We will discuss about a return value for this method later. For now we are assuming that this method need not return anything. I am providing a void type method. Okay, it does not return anything, and so void. Okay, and I also want to make this method a public method so that this method can be accessed from anywhere. Any class of the project should be able to access this method, and so I'm making it public. Any class, any package. Okay, because see, this class is inside DAO package and user test is in another package. It should be able to access this class and this method, and so both class and method must be marked as public so that we can access it from another package. Okay, so here what this method should do, as per our discussion, this method should do what? It should perform the CRUD operation, and for that performing CRUD operation, it has to create the query. Create what query? The query that is created with the help of the values of these three values. And where are we receiving these three values? We are receiving them as parameters. So based on this three variables, name, email, and password, I have to create a dynamic query here. Okay, which should look like this. Okay, so okay, and here, so I'm going to write string dynamic query, double quotes. Okay, okay, so now we have our dynamic query created. Let us check whether it is printing in this format or not. Okay, so after creating this dynamic query, I want to print this dynamic query. Okay, I am printing this variable dynamic query. Let us see what it prints. I am stopping the execution, and I'm not printing this query from my main method. In the main method, I don't want to print it. So let me remove this statement from main method. Okay. And what I want to do, instead of printing from main method, I want to pass these values to what? To this user DAO's insert user method. Okay. What we are doing, these data that we have received from main method, these variables we have to pass to insert user method of user DAO object, user DAO object. Okay, so how to do that? In user DAO class, we have this insert user method. This method can be called. How? This is a non-static method. If it is a non-static method, we have to create the object of the class and call the method. So I am writing a dynamic object of user DAO. Within bracket, I am writing new user DAO within brackets. What it will do? It will create a dynamic object of user DAO. What is dynamic object? It just means that we are creating an object without saving it in a variable. We are just creating an object. Okay. Dot. Okay. On user DAO object, we are going to call insert user method. Okay. Okay. Wait. It is not giving suggestions. That means it is giving an error. First of all, what is that error? Let us check it. It is telling there is something. The left hand side of an assignment must be a variable. Currently we are not giving, ignore that. Okay, what is happening? Why it is not working? New user DAO. Okay, what is it telling? User DAO cannot be resolved to a type. It just means that the variable called, this name called user DAO cannot be found by compiler. So how to resolve this? The quick fix is given here. The idea is we just have to import the class user DAO, which is in a different package. Where it is? User DAO is located in this package. Okay, user management, user underscore management is my main database, main package name, and inside that package I have a package called DAO. So my user DAO class is in this package. Okay, this package. So I just have to write an import statement in the beginning. Import user underscore mgmt dot DAO dot star. Okay, or you can here very clearly say what you are importing. User DAO. You are importing the user DAO class, which is located in user management dot DAO package. Okay, now this class is imported, and so here when we write new user DAO, it will not give any error. It is what it is doing. It is creating an object of user DAO, and on this object we can say dot. Now we can call the method that is available in this user DAO class, and we have currently only one method available, which is insert user. Okay, this is the insert user. It is taking what? It is taking name, email and password as parameters. Okay, and we have name, email and password as variables here in our main method. So when we call this method, all we have to do is supply those respective variables as parameters. What we are doing? We are creating a new user DAO object. On that object, we are calling insert user method, and for this insert user method, we are supplying this name variable. This name variable we are supplying as the first parameter. This email variable we are supplying as the second parameter. This password variable we are supplying as the third parameter. Okay, so what we are basically doing is something like this. I am taking the name value of name value that is entered by user and supplying as the first parameter to insert user method. I am taking email that is entered by user and supplying as second parameter to insert user method, and then password which is entered by user and supplying that as third parameter to insert user method. Okay, okay. Now what will happen at the time of execution? When this insert user method is called, this method insert user method of user DAO class is called, and then let me put side by side so that you can see better. Okay, what will happen here? What will happen? The value that is entered here, okay, the value that is entered here, okay. So what is happening here? Here we are entering a value. Okay, let me reduce the size a little bit so that you can see better. Okay, now let me run the program once again and let me explain what is happening exactly here. Okay, and for the time being I will remove these comment lines so that you can see things more clearly. Okay, so let us run this program, save it. Okay, I'm choosing one insert record as the option. Okay, it is asking enter username. What happens here when I am entering a value? Let me give a different name because it is performing it is going to print that query which we are going to run in the database. Currently it is not running though. Let me give a different name. Let us say Venu. Okay, Venu is the name that I'm choosing. Okay, and when I press enter, what happens? This value will be saved in this variable. Okay, because currently what is running, this menu is running from user test class main method. This part is running. Okay, this part is running. Okay, here it is reading the value Venu and saving it in this name variable. Okay, and then I am entering Vikas at gmail, sorry, not Vikas, Venu is the name, so Venu at gmail.com. Okay, and then I'm entering password as Venu at 123. Okay, then what is happening? I want you to closely observe. Okay, what is happening? It is taking this value called Venu. Okay, and it is sending this value to this variable called name. Okay, and then it is taking this value called Venu at gmail.com and sending this value to this variable called email, and then it is taking this value Venu at 123 and then sending this value to this variable called password. Okay, ignore the drawing. Okay, these three variables are receiving these three data. Okay, and then what happens here? We are saying new user object is created. Okay, so it will just create a new user object. Imagine this as your user object. In this user DAO object, sorry, this is not a user object, it is actually user DAO object. Okay, so it will it will take this user DAO object. Okay, and then it will create this user.dao object, and then it will call the insert user method. Okay, where once again, let us see, we are taking this name variable and supplying it here. We are supplying it here as the first parameter. Okay, and then we are taking this email variable, okay, which is currently holding this value, and supplying here as the second parameter to insert user method. Okay, and then we are taking this password variable, okay, which is currently holding this value, and supplying here as third parameter of this insert user method. Okay, and what is this insert user method? This method is actually available here in our user DAO. This is our insert user method, which is available in user DAO class. Okay, so what will happen here? It will take this password value, and it will be sent to this password variable of insert user method. Okay, let us draw it the other way. Okay, and then this email variable is supplied to this email variable, and then this name variable is supplied to this name variable. Okay, that means those respective values are supplied. What values are supplied now? Finally, the value called Venu is supplied here. Okay, the value called Venu@gmail.com is supplied here. The value called Venu@123 is supplied here. Okay, via this method. Okay, so you can imagine it like this is the first step. Okay, it is sending the data from the input to user test class. It is reading the variables and sending that data to this method, insert method. That is the second step. Okay, that is the second step. It is sending the data to the insert user method. In the insert user method, what is happening? It is creating the insert query. Okay, and in this insert query, it is putting those values, name, email, and password values, in those respective positions of the insert query. Okay, now let me remove all this drawing so that you can clearly see. Okay, then finally what is happening? Let me write this query in separate lines so that you can see it. Okay, this is my query. Where what is happening? We are taking now this name variable, okay, and we are writing it here, and then we are taking this email variable and we are writing it here, and then we are taking this password variable and we are writing it here. Okay, and so whatever values that are received here, okay, these values are coming from this method call, and these variables are receiving from the data entered here. Okay, so once again, let me just write it down very easily. Okay, this data is sent here, these three variables. These three variables. Okay, then these three variables, are sent these three variables are sent here. Okay, these three variables are sent here to this method and they are used in the query. And so in the query we are getting these values printed here. So finally we are getting that data printed here. Okay, so that is how we are making this dynamic query. Okay,